Several years ago, when I married my husband, a new family member, my sister-in-law Sophia, joined my life. At first, deep down, I hoped that the two of us could get along well together. However, it seemed I was the only one who felt that way. I couldn't sense Sophia's intention to deepen our relationship. On the contrary, she often looked down on me. She seemed to value my existence only for money. The most blatant revelation of Sophia's true feelings was during a phone conversation one day. She said coldly, "If you're looking for your bank book, you better give up now because I have it." "Why would you say that?" I asked. "Isn't your wealth, in other words, your money, essentially mine? So even if I spend it all, I think it shouldn't be a problem." Frustrated, I retorted, "My assets are mine. They're not yours." She laughed it off. "Do you believe that?" "That's amusing." Since that incident, I believed that reconciliation with Sophia was impossible, and I began thinking of ways to get back at her. When I reached the stage of executing my plan, my sister-in-law confidently blurted out, "Once you married into our family, isn't it natural to think everything you have now belongs to the family?" I was just dumbfounded and could only mumble, "That's not how it." I bought a new car using the bank book balance. What with drawing a large amount at the counter raising suspicions, I carefully withdrew $3,000 multiple times using an ATM. There's no balance left in the bank book, so forget about the money. Sophia laughed loudly. That smile was filled with pride, as if she was declaring her victory. It was clear that Sophia was in a very good mood, so I decided to counterattack at that moment. "Then, I'll give up on the bank book and the money inside it, as you say," I said. "What are you talking about?" she asked. "You said earlier to forget about the bank book and the money, didn't you?" "I did say that," I responded, "but you're the one who needs to give up." "Could you tell me why? Isn't it obvious the bank book is in your name? Did you carefully check the name on the bank book?" "Of course, it was stored on a shelf in your house, so it must be in your name." Sophia's voice was filled with irritation. However, I didn't flinch. Her slip of the tongue just now became a significant advantage for me. "Sister-in-law, it seems you have a little misunderstanding," I said. After that preface, I began to explain the whole story to Sophia slowly and carefully. "My name is Emma. The story goes back to when I decided to marry my husband, Lucas. My husband's family runs a metal processing business. My father-in-law is the president, and my mother-in-law handles all the office tasks. My husband works hard as an employee in that company. Many talented people, including my husband, work for the company. It can be said to be a fairly large-scale business. I truly want to support the company my husband's family runs, but amidst all this, I noticed my mother-in-law looking exhausted. I began to wonder if administrative work usually involves such a burden, so I decided to ask my mother-in-law directly about her health and the situation at work. "Mother, is something bothering you?" I asked. "Thank you for your concern," she said. "Two office staff members resigned recently, and as a result, I've been handling most of the tasks by myself." "What? That must be tough, especially managing everything on your own," I exclaimed in surprise. From my mother-in-law's detailed account, I learned that the two office workers had left the company after getting married. Additionally, they were having trouble recruiting new clerks, and there didn't seem to be a clear policy regarding hiring. So, I decided to make a suggestion. I have experience in administrative work from before. If there's any way I can help, even a little, I'd be more than happy to support, I said. My mother-in-law's expression brightened. "That would be very helpful. Of course, we intend to compensate you appropriately, so thank you in advance," she said. Triggered by this conversation, I became actively involved in a support role in my father-in-law's company. My administrative experience was quickly put to use, and my father-in-law greatly appreciated my support. My husband always looked out for me. He seemed concerned if I felt stressed balancing household chores with work. "You only need to help until a new clerk is hired," he said. "I don't want you to overwork yourself." "Thank you, Lucas," I said. "But I communicate well with your mother, and compared to my previous workplace, the environment and atmosphere here are much better, so I don't intend to quit anytime soon." My husband respected my decision. One day, out of the blue, my mother-in-law exclaimed, "Oh, I completely forgot to go to the post office." "That's concerning. Would you like me to go for you?" With my kind offer, a smile spread across her face. "No need, Emma," she said. "I was planning to do some shopping too, so I'll go." Leaving those words behind, she hurriedly left. During the short time she was out, it seemed almost planned when my sister-in-law appeared in the office. "Long time no see, Emma." Sophia's voice was warm. "Sophia, do you have something to discuss?" I asked. "I was just passing by and thought I'd drop in." Sophia smiled sweetly. "I've heard rumors that she's currently working in a restaurant since she doesn't have a full-time job, but I didn't know the details about her current job situation or how her life has been." As I was contemplating whether to ask Sophia about her situation, she suddenly turned to me. "Emma, I'm curious. Are you getting paid for working here?" "Yes," I said. "The pay isn't much for the administrative work I do, but I am compensated." I intended to help without any payment, considering the nature of the work and my role in the family. However, my father-in-law suggested that hiring me officially and paying a salary would be smoother for tax and internal management reasons, so I chose that route. The salary I receive is just the minimum for a newbie in admin roles, so it's not much. I wasn't sure how much Sophia knew about my salary situation, but from her attitude, it seemed she was expecting something. "In that case, could you share a bit with me?" she asked. Taken aback, I reflexively asked, "What do you mean by a share? Are you asking to borrow money?" Trying to understand her intention, I continued, "That's not what I meant. I want you to give me part of that salary." "Part of the salary?" Don't make me repeat myself. "Just give it to me now." Sophia's expression suddenly changed, and she approached me. She then noticed a small safe on the table. "It's in there, isn't it?" Saying that, she reached out for the safe in a panic. I blurted out, "Wait. That contains important funds for the company." "Company funds? This is a company run by our father, right? If so, that money belongs to him, so there shouldn't be a problem with me borrowing a bit of it," she argued back. That wasn't the issue. I tried desperately to stop her, but Sophia's determination was unyielding. In the end, she forced open the safe and took out several bills. "I'll be taking this." "Give it back," I said. "How am I supposed to explain this to everyone?" "That's your problem, and I'm sure you'll figure it out." "Goodbye," she said, whistling. Sophia made her exit. I stood there in shock, watching her leave the office. While I couldn't determine the exact amount, I didn't think she took that much, right? I need to check what's left. As I referenced the ledger, I checked the contents of the safe. I'm short $170. Sophia took two $50 bills and three $10 bills. My heart raced as I quickly pulled out my wallet to check inside. However, there were only a few $5 bills. This isn't nearly enough. What should I do? Frustrated and desperate to remedy the situation, I felt lost. I considered telling my mother-in-law the truth, but the potential backlash and resentment from Sophia made me hesitate. Fear of being targeted for revenge held me back from confessing everything. With no solutions in sight, my mother-in-law returned from shopping. "I'm back, Emma. You seem down. Are you feeling okay?" She expressed concern for me. "Mother-in-law, there's something I need to tell you," I began, steeling myself to reveal what had transpired. "You don't need to apologize," she said. "Sophia has caused trouble multiple times before. It's been difficult handling her. I'm sorry she put you through this about the money Sophia took. If it could be deducted from my salary, I'd appreciate it." "Don't worry about it," she reassured me. "I'll handle it as her mother, but I have a small request for you." The request was that when Sophia comes to the office next time, to record her voice. The method was simple: use a smartphone or a digital recorder to ensure the atmosphere and conversation of the place are recorded. "But why is such a recording necessary?" I asked. "Sophia is an adult now. I believe she needs proper sanctions for what she did." "Indeed, that's true," she agreed. "But to ensure she doesn't make wrong moves in the future, we need to show her the significance and impact of her actions." After the conversation, I decided to always wear an IC recorder. A week later, while the mother-in-law was out, Sophia appeared in the office again. "Hey, how are you doing, Emma?" she asked. Why are you here again?" I asked nervously and discreetly operated the IC recorder to start recording. I'm a bit strapped for cash right now, so I thought I'd borrow some from you, she said. I'm not lending you money, I said. Why did you lend it before? Didn't you? That was you taking it without permission, but you managed to cover for it later, didn't you? She said. That's because I couldn't say that I had informed the mother-in-law about what happened. If I were to explain in detail, Sophia would surely leave immediately. In that case, it would be impossible to collect the evidence requested by my mother-in-law. I pondered my response carefully, choosing my words. You managed to overcome the situation, right? Can you lend me some money today? That's not possible, I said. You married into this family, didn't you? Can you, as a daughter-in-law, go against the wishes of your in-laws? Her irrational argument surprised me. Well, enough with the excuses. Just hand over the key to the safe, she said angrily. Sophia angrily slammed the desk. After the resounding noise, I heard my mother-in-law's footsteps from outside. What are you doing, Sophia? She asked. Sophia's eyes widened in shock. Oh, Mom. You haven't found a proper job, and on top of that, you're asking for money from your sister-in-law. Aren't you even a bit ashamed of your actions? Well, that's… What exactly are you thinking, Sophia? Her mother asked. Quit bugging me. I may not have a regular job, but I'm working part-time, and I'm supporting myself just fine. At your age, still relying on part-time jobs for a living? Aren't you ashamed? Your friends have built careers, married, and started families, and you're still… Her mother said. It's my life, and I make my own choices, Sophia retorted. Besides, I have a decent partner for marriage. Sophia became agitated and stormed out of the room. After Sophia left, Emma breathed a sigh of relief. Mother-in-law, I'm truly grateful, she said. Don't worry. Now that she knows, Sophia must be feeling some regret. The mother-in-law reassured Emma with a smile. However, Emma's heart was still filled with anxiety. She was concerned that Sophia might return with more demands. One day, when Emma visited her mother-in-law's house, her mother-in-law showed her a piece of paper. Actually, I received an invitation to Sophia's wedding recently, she said. Without a doubt, it was a wedding invitation. The groom was listed as a man named Leo. I didn't recognize the name, but my mother-in-law seemed to know him and had a somewhat worried expression. Leo is the son of the factory manager, she said. Huh, he's the factory manager's son? That's surprising, I said. The factory manager had been someone my father-in-law had worked closely with for a long time and was highly respected. Is the factory manager discussing anything specific about his son's marriage? I asked. Well, the thing is, the factory manager seemed to have no idea about the marriage, and he was genuinely surprised when we told him, she said. I see, but since it's already happened, we think it's best to accept it with a congratulatory spirit. There's no point in opposing it now, she said. The mother-in-law's expression seemed to have already accepted everything. After the wedding, my sister-in-law proudly told her mother-in-law, See, I did have a proper groom. Congratulations, Sophia, the mother-in-law smiled. Are you relieved now? More importantly, what are your plans for your new life together? What's your plan for the future? When the mother-in-law asked this with a serious expression, my sister-in-law seemed to be at a loss for words. Did you decide on a new place to live yet? The mother-in-law asked. That's something we'll think about in the future, Sophia said. I fought as much for now, the mother-in-law said. You should start by living in our apartment. We're planning to move to a new place, so we'll let you have this house. It's our final support for you. Find part-time jobs if you need to and make a living on your own. All right. I understand, Sophia said, making a displeased look on her face. I was surprised by her attitude, considering she should be grateful for the house she received. Most of all, I felt sorry for my mother-in-law, who seemed pitiful and hurt. My husband, Lucas, seemed to feel the same way, and he quickly suggested to my mother-in-law. If that's the case, why don't you come live with us? He suggested. It's okay. Actually, I've already discussed and decided on our new residence with your father, she said. Are you sure that's fine? Lucas asked. Well, just for the time until we move into the new house, can we leave some of our belongings at your place? Of course, that's fine, he said. I felt relieved by his response. I had hoped that once she got married, my sister-in-law would lead a peaceful life. I optimistically believed that we would live in harmony, but issues arose within just a week after she moved into her new house. The morning after my sister-in-law and her husband moved in, while we were getting ready for work, we received a sudden call from my mother-in-law. "Mother-in-law, why are you calling so early? Is something wrong?" I asked. "Emma, I'm sorry to bother you, but I need to check something," she said. "Is Sophia over there with you?" According to my mother-in-law, she and my father-in-law had plans to stay in a hotel for a few days, taking a short break from their house. During this time, my sister-in-law and her husband were supposed to start moving into the in-laws' house, and the furniture and belongings that were there were temporarily moved to our house. My mother-in-law was deeply concerned about whether her daughter's new life was on track, so she decided to visit their house that morning to see for herself. However, when she did, she couldn't find any sign of her daughter or her husband. Since they had helped move some belongings from the in-laws' house to ours the previous day, she thought they might be staying with us. "No, they did come back home then," I said. "I wonder where they could have gone," she said. "Maybe they went on their honeymoon?" "That's a possibility," I said. "If you find out anything, please let me know." After saying that, she hung up. Later, I briefed my husband about the situation, but he had no specific information either. I felt I didn't need to be involved any further, so I decided to just wait quietly for my sister-in-law to get in touch. However, as the days went by, the lack of contact started to become concerning. My mother-in-law seriously began to consider filing a missing person report with the police. In the middle of discussing this decision in our living room, she paused her train of thought and calmly said, "I'll go get the bank book for a moment." "What for?" I asked. "I want to withdraw some money, just in case. If we do end up having to search for them, there might be some expenses involved." She spoke with a worried tone. I understood her forward thinking and decided to wait silently in the room. Suddenly, from the next room, I heard her shocked voice. "What? I can't find the bank book." Responding to the voice, my husband, Lucas, and I hurriedly went to the adjacent room. Inside, my mother-in-law looked flustered in front of a shelf, checking the contents of the shelf. It was empty. "Did you keep your bank book here, ma'am?" I asked to confirm, and my mother-in-law nodded rapidly in a state of confusion. "Isn't this the shelf we moved last time?" she asked. Reflecting on the events, the move from her house had taken place in 2 stages. The first was the day after my sister-in-law's wedding, and the second was just a few days later, the day before she disappeared. Despite the short time, the 2-stage move was mainly due to work-related reasons. The shelf in question was from the first move. However, neither my husband nor I recalled interacting with that shelf. Neither of us touched or checked that shelf. "But are you sure you kept it here?" Lucas asked. "I'm certain," she said. "I stored it here." But Lucas's doubt irritated her, and they gradually began to argue as I stood confused, watching them. Suddenly, my smartphone rang. The unexpected call in this tense situation startled me. Reluctantly picking up the phone, I asked, "What's going on?" "You sound upset," said my sister-in-law. Hearing her voice, I couldn't hide my surprise. Raising one hand to interrupt the argument between my mother-in-law and husband, I said, "Sis, is that you?" Both Lucas and my mother-in-law noticed and stopped arguing, turning to face me with their eyes locked onto me. They were at a loss for words. Turning to the phone again, I asked, "It is you, right?" My sister-in-law's answer was short and seemed annoyed. "If it's not me, who do you think it is?" "Where are you?" I asked. "We've been genuinely worried about you." However, the sister-in-law casually brushed off the question. "It doesn't matter where I am right now. There's something I want to ask you." From the conversation, it became clear that the sister-in-law had taken the bank book and bought a car with the money inside. That money was originally mine. She even declared that outright. Outraged by her self-centered remarks, I recounted to her the entire commotion that had occurred. "Right now, Mom's bank book is missing, and it's causing a lot of trouble." "What? Mom's bank book is missing?" Sophia seemed genuinely shocked by this sudden piece of news. "Whose name is on that bank book you have? Could it be under my name?" Just wait a moment," I said. From the other side of the call, the sound of rummaging through belongings could be heard. She probably mistakenly took my bank book, thinking it was the mother-in-law's. However, the mother-in-law hadn't made any significant expenses recently and hadn't noticed it missing. More than a week had already passed since Sophia had the bank book. Likely, the money inside was already withdrawn. After a while, a flustered voice came from the other end. "Wait, is this Mom's bank book?" I knew it. As I muttered, my smartphone was suddenly snatched from my hand. Looking up, the angered face of the mother-in-law held my phone firmly. "Sophia, I've heard everything," she said. "What, Mom? Why?" Sophia asked. "I was worried about you. Then I got a call from you. But how did you hear my conversation?" "Because Emma had her phone on speaker," her mother said. I had the phone on speaker to let my husband and mother-in-law know about Sophia's actions. As a result, they had heard everything, including the fact that Sophia had used my bank book to buy a car. "What on earth were you thinking?" "How irresponsible," her voice echoed throughout the room. Apologizing with a remorseful voice, Sophia said, I'm so sorry. Using the company funds without permission and taking someone's bank book. What a mess you've made. Please forgive me. I'll be careful from now on." "It's too late for that," her mother said. "Come home right now and explain." "Yes, I understand," Sophia said. Along with Sophia's shocked voice, a loud thud could be heard from the background. "Hey, Sophia, are you okay?" the mother-in-law asked. But there was no response from Sophia. After a few seconds, Sophia's frantic voice reached her again. "Help me at the convenience store parking lot." Then, the call abruptly ended. It was easy to infer the situation from that brief conversation. While being engrossed in the call, Sophia might have mistaken the gas for the brake. It seemed she had driven the car into the convenience store. Soon after, the police reported that Sophia's car had crashed into the store. Both Sophia and her husband were in the car. Fortunately, neither of them was seriously injured, but the aftermath was problematic. It became clear that my sister-in-law, Sophia, did not have car insurance, leading to a situation where all the repair costs would have to be paid out of pocket. The in-laws were extremely angry, but to contain the situation, they went to fetch Sophia immediately. Witnessing this, Sophia's husband's parents couldn't hide their anger either. Especially her husband's father, who is the manager of a factory, hurled biting words at Sophia. "Since you married into this family, do you think everything should just be provided for you?" he asked. Those words were the same words Sophia had said to me. Just telling my mother-in-law the story was not the end of my revenge. I had the manager, Sophia's father-in-law, listen to a recording of it as well. Since these were her own words, there was no room for Sophia to deny them. Subsequently, the manager had even harsher words and gave an order to Sophia and her husband. "You two have no money, so you will work diligently under my command and give me all the earnings," he said. After these events, Sophia and her husband began working at the factory owned by my father-in-law, under the strict supervision of the manager. They had no other choice, and it seemed best for their financial situation. After that, my in-laws returned to their family home, closely monitoring the daily lives of Sophia and her husband. By day, they worked at the factory, and after work, they lived under the watchful eyes of the in-laws. Feeling the pressure from both ends, unable to bear the harsh environment, when Sophia ran into me at the factory, she came to me crying, seeking help. "I'll do anything," she said. "Please forgive me." "Anything. Then, I want you to work sincerely and pay back the money you took from us," I said. I had never imagined seeing Sophia in such a desperate state, breaking down in front of me. The sight of her at that moment spoke volumes about her mental exhaustion. It's a sight that will probably remain etched in my memory forever. On one hand, I thought, it serves you right, but witnessing her pitiable state, I couldn't help but feel a hint of sympathy. However, since this was the result of her actions, there was nothing that could change it. Changing the topic, there was a significant change in my life shortly thereafter. I decided to resign from my administrative position. I had heard that the office was hiring new staff, and I found out that I was pregnant. I want to focus on a new life with my baby and ensure I get enough rest.